And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, we got a great conversation. It's a dual conversation today. We're going to talk about why in Black relationships there's not turning into be marriages. And we're going to follow up with a little bit more about what's going on with Minnesota. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor David. Y'all come on in. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, first let me give all praises to God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for making it possible for me to be here. And I want to welcome everybody to the show. We're going to do something a little bit different. There's a lot of statistics showing that in the Black community, that marriage between Black men and women are at an all-time low. And we can see it when the president started coming out talking about Black people need to be having babies. But there seems to be a rift that's always between Black relationships, Black men and women coming together to get married. And we're going to talk a little bit about those numbers. But first, let me bring my panel in. What's up, Randy?
Hey, good day to you all.
Doc.
Hey.
Hello. Mr. Binky.
Morning.
Now, I know, Doc, you won't be on the run, so I'm gonna throw these statistics up first to you. Give our listeners some kind of idea. Why do you think that Black men and Black women aren't marrying like they used to? Because when we was coming along, our whole mission was to go out there and find us a fine, beautiful wife and raise a family and have kids in the whole 9 yards. But it seemed to be in this day and age, there's a rift going on how dating is done. We got women who are expecting men to pay for them and take care of them, and they broke. I mean, and vice versa. So, Doc, give our listeners a little thought about that while I cue up this thing. But what do you think about the dating thing and Black men and women getting married?
Well, the change came with propaganda, right? It also came with the thug culture. It happens a lot in our music. So we are very much emotional people. We're driven by emotion. That's how we dress, what we listen to, how we interact with one another. And that was preyed upon by other communities, especially, when they took the fathers out of the home. We can start with the Great New Deal, just with the welfare system. And it became a situation of what have you done for me lately, right? The music started to really dictate how our relationships looked, how our households looked. And we became a reflection of what we've listened to and what we've allowed into our homes. My mom said she grew up in a household where she wasn't allowed to listen to worldly secular music, and there was a reason for that. And so, the baby boomers, unfortunately, that's it. They got penetrated, I would say, in a way where I'm just saying, in a way where it really started to devolve family values. The men were taken out of the home. So men stopped learning how to be men, and women started to raise men to be men. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't do that. That's not our place and position. And we've gotten so far away from just family values spiritual values, Christian values, that now men and women don't even want to be together in the Black community. We've lost who we are, and it's a fight to get back to who we are. I see the babies doing it. They're trying, but it still comes back to what are we allowing in our homes, the culture that we are allowing. Like Sexy Red and Glorilla, they're getting awards for gospel music. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm giving you guys the Cliff Note version, but you can
yeah.
Right. When you see it from the outside, I'm just saying it's been a de-evolution of who we are.
Randy,
I agree there, Dr. Shack, and I would expound on the thug culture and the music culture. That definitely was an influence in my community growing up. You would see, guys, a song come out, the next day they're mimicking and try to act like what they just heard.
Yeah, what they saw.
And that spread throughout, that has spread it throughout the community. And on top of that, it was normal for a guy to sleep around with a bunch of women, but then you get a woman that has slept around with a bunch of men, and then now she's the garden tool and everything else.
No.
Yeah, that's the whole, and she's a neighborhood hooker and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, what about the guy? He got just as many he got just as many bodies as she do, type of thing. And it's like, oh, that's normal for a guy, type of thing. And so but now she's unmarried. She's not married. She's not wifey material, And so that additionally spread it. And to your point also about the Great Society program under LBJ in the late 60s, early 70s, incentivizing single family homes and keeping the man out of the home. People tend to shy away from that, but that was a Democrat program that still evolutionizes to this very day. And people tend to ignore that and say, no, that's not true. I guarantee you this. If this administration or the next administration says, hey, in order for you to get food stamps, you have to be married, I guarantee you those numbers would shoot through the roof so fast. The divorce rate, all the divorce cases that's currently in court is thrown out the window. That's how you got to change the culture by changing the system. That's what I have.
Mr. Binky, your thoughts?
Yeah, like Randy brought up the music. People listen to music, and the next day they go out there and want to act like it. I think that's in everything. That could be the big problem of society. I mean, you start going out there, you start listening to bad music, you act bad. You pick up characteristics. And that's the same way with everything. You got people out there that want to be together, two people instead of, dating multiple people. It's just a fad, or it's just the society itself. I mean,
Well,
it makes sense. My pastor says there's more that's caught than taught.
Yeah. All of you are totally correct with the music, because the music can set the tone for different situations in the culture. See, when I was coming up, there's a different model of men, and I say this all the time, and then people are like, why you say that, Pastor? Because my father was a model of type of man that worked, gave his paycheck up, took care of the family, the provider, the protector, all of that. He was the head of the household, made final decisions in conjunction with my mother. It wasn't just the type of situation where he controlled everything. They were a team, and they understood their places and respected positions in a marriage. My father knew his responsibility. My mother knew her responsibility. We as children was taught our responsibility. And one of the things that as we was growing up was, first of all, a child stay in a child's place. You couldn't be a kid running up under your mom and dad while they was having the conversations with the adults. See, and that type of structure has what disappeared, because the type of man and the model of man my father was old fashioned. He was stern. He was raised in a certain way that in order to be a man, you had to do all of these things. You had to be there, everything. And so that type of man wouldn't take welfare. That type of man made sure that if he had to work 5 or 10 jobs, that's what he was going to do, because the culture required him as a man. These are the responsibilities of a man. And I know black men in those days lived up to those responsibilities. Over 99% of those men. It wasn't a lazy guy that was on welfare begging for SNAP. It wasn't a Mr. Mom attitude where a man was taking care of the kids. All of that came on in later generations because that was the plan to destroy the strong black family that had came to the 60s, because, you know, black people in those days were married. They was getting married. They was creating families. They was having babies. They was creating communities, you know, and all of that led to the prosperity of the black community. And so when they came out with the welfare, that was the beginning of the end of the black family, because like you said, Doc, they started taking people, you know, and saying, well, you know, you can't have no husband, you know, unless if you want the money. And so society did dictate it, but at the same time, the music was different. The music was the stylistic, and you know, I miss my baby with the blues, and you know, have a family, and all of that stuff dictated the tone in relationships. So all of you guys are right on that. But what we're seeing today is I think that the more that black women became what they considered themselves independent. See, when society figured out the black family was going to be a lot stronger, because when I was coming up, it was like 80 to 90% black men and women getting married. Mm-hmm. Then it got to the place where when they took the economics out the black community, the standard that black men was being raised by, the old model like my father and myself, that started to dwindle, because they were telling black men, it's okay not to have a job. It's okay to sort of, you know, be relaxed. You don't have to live by the strenuous standards that it used to be. And then slowly the black man was taking out the family, and the ideology of what men stood for and how they stood up and fought for the community, they started to water down the responsibility. And especially in the black community, black women started to come up and take the job to say, I'm independent, I'm strong, I don't need no man. As black men started to careen down of being not the man in the family, but just a liability if he didn't work. And so therefore we are seeing what we're seeing now. It's the up and down, you know, now black men that make it, they have a set of rules they live by, and women live by certain rules, and they're clashing because one wants the other to take care of the other. Your thoughts, Randy? What are you thinking about over there? What could we do?
You're absolutely right. I grew up growing up in the 80s, 90s era, I used to be under my grandfather a lot. My father, he was around, but he wasn't in the home, because my mom and dad wasn't married, just for transparency. But my dad lived like, 6-7 blocks over, or depending on where we was at. He moved around and we moved around. So, but I see my dad like quite often. I would see him like maybe twice a week type of thing, but not including weekends. But being under my grandfather, he grew up in that model, like you said, and being under him growing up, he would go to his friend's house on Saturday mornings, and they would be in the garage, and they had like a little it was like a 24-inch screen TV or something like that, and they would have a case of Budweisers, and they're watching baseball games. But you know what was going on during those baseball games when in that beer drinking? It was about 6 of them. They were talking politics, and the politics they were talking about wasn't the stuff that you see today. It was talking about the neighborhood politics. Hey, what's going on with those thugs that was hanging out down the street the other night? Do you know who such father is, and this, that, and the third? So they're dealing with the issues of the community, and then they translate that back to the city council members. They translate that back to the aldermen in Chicago and stuff like that. And that's how the police got their information. And they would go and set up surveillances and everything else and clean those streets up. and it was all good. But it took a little. Of course, it took a little time, but it set the tone that for men to be out in the streets and not being a productive member of society, that's a no-go. And we're going to make an example out of you to let you know that we're not going to tolerate that. Either you straighten up or you ship out. And that was kind of like what I grew up around. And then, as I gotten older and I started getting into my thuggery, it was I was catching the baseball bats, or getting or catching the rifle in the corner, the butt of it, getting that jammed into my chest. And so, but that was how we grew up. Nowadays, you don't have that. You got these YNs and these gummies and yummies and all this kind of stuff that's going on out there, and they don't understand that when they get older, they're going to reap what they sowed when their children come behind them and start doing the same stuff, and now they're going to be held accountable because they didn't raise their kids right. And so, my dad, when he got wind that I was doing something that was not, to honor him and his name, I would get punched in the forehead. It was a straight knuckle shot right to the forehead.
That was a knot on the head.
Yeah, I would have.
So can I jump in real quick? Yeah, I wanted to jump in real quick because I have to drop. But I also wanted to bring up, which I forgot about, is the crack epidemic, and we shouldn't shy away from that or forget about that. And that played a huge dynamic,
huge role
when they came out with the 1994 crime bill. Right? That really further damaged Black communities, specifically taking Black men out of the homes. And then you have this thug culture that comes behind it. And now you have the YNs, to your point, Randy, and all of these younger men that definitely didn't grow up with fathers, but they grew up in this thug mentality, basically like, I need to be a criminal to lead my household, as opposed to I need to be an active member of society to lead my household. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that. Sorry, I have to drop, but
no doubt.
Take it easy.
I'll see you soon, Doc. But guys, she's so right. The structure of how men was raised was abandoned. The structure of how women was raised was abandoned. And I think that if the Black community is going to rise and repopulate and rebuild, since 1974, 58 million Black babies were destroyed by Planned Parenthood. The marriage rate is down because a lot of the men are incarcerated and put in prison. A lot of men aren't being men because they don't have a trade, so they can't work to make money to be able to take care of families. It has been a lot against the Black man as far as him being responsible, because your manhood cannot fully develop if you cannot fulfill the requirements to be a man. The requirements to being a man is to be able to make money, to take care of your family, to be the protector, to be the sound mind of the family structure. All of those things, society was really put in place by the Bible and what God, man was first, and his responsibility to his helpmate and to his family. And I think that structure itself has hit rock bottom in the Black community, because when I take a look at the situations with our young men and women today, most, especially in the Black community, there seems to be an air of competition, so that when you do get a Black man that's successful, you do get a Black woman that's successful, it's hard for them to get together and be as one, because they don't know how to mesh things together, because it's a give and take relationship.
Right.
I watched my mother and father, they was married for 70 years until they was dead. I mean, he died 2020, 15th of February. He was so heartbroken, he died September 13th. That following months later. That's the type of love that no matter what it is, relationships are going to go through that. And I think that today's society, Black men and women and white men and women today have let society dictate to them on what they should be and what roles they should play, because the roles have reversed Now it's okay for a man to be lazy and walk around the house and do nothing while a woman works. Your thought on that, Mr. Binky?
Well, I mean, it's just like when you brought up about the welfare system. A man can't be around the house. So what responsibility did he have? I mean, a woman couldn't have a guy around the house, so he had no obligations or no push to be around the house. So he just ran around, slept around, and ran across whatever he could. So I mean, when you bring a system in that tears any family apart, and I'm sorry, it's just not the black community, but you got a system there that's not promoting responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's being a man and a woman. It shouldn't exist according to society today. It's a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, and transgender this. It's just everything's just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're right, Mr. Mickey, because what we saw in the black community, we saw the fact that they were demasculating men in the black community. I think when the generation of the Malcolm X and Dr. King, those type of model of men who had it in their hearts to stand up and fight for the community, just like you said, Randy, the men in our community got together and they sit down, and if somebody's kid was doing something, they intervene and they talk to that child and say, "Hey, man, you can't do that here. This is how it's supposed to be done." And I think that type of structure is what's missing in our community now, because you see a lot of our young black men that do not understand how to be men. Mm-hmm. When they started to take out the trades in the schools and they went to the unions, and then black men couldn't get jobs with the union and all the economics came out, then they disabled the black man to be a man and allowed him to be something shadow of a man that didn't honor his name or didn't work, or this society made our men weak. What are your thoughts, Randy?
I'm glad you brought that up, because you're absolutely right. Men have abdicated their responsibility, not only to the community, but to their family and to society in general. They're saying, God, family, and country. We got away from that. And then you can macronize that to just saying, what about my community, my family, and, my city, type of thing, or just a society in general. We gotten away from that mindset. And we're just worrying about what's going on with me. Where's my next meals will come from? Where's my next paycheck going to come from? Versus, hey, what's going on with us? Where's our next meal going to come from? Where's our next paycheck's going to come from? We gotten away from that mindset. And I would challenge, I want to give a challenge to the listeners today, to the men particularly. If you live in a troubled community, go door to door. If you're compelled to do so, go door to door and get the contact information of every man in that household, and get together and say, "Hey, let's meet up at this wing bar, or let's meet up somewhere on this particular day and time, and let's have a discussion. Let's talk about these issues and how we can fix it." And you will remarkably see a change in the dynamics in which these societies have devolutionized to. So I put that out there to everybody. But overall, I think we need to get back to the core function of being a family, and whether that's a single family or a mom and father household, we need to get back to that core function of, hey, my kids are in school, let me be involved in the school, and make sure that they get the right materials, make sure the materials are appropriate. Apparently, we have to do that, and we go from there.
You want to comment on that, Binky, while I cue this video up?
Yeah, that sounds real reasonable to me. About I don't have much to say on that. That ain't been said.
Well, let's cue this video up and take a look at what's going on with numbers today.
The following statistics were provided by blackdemographics.com. Black marriage in the United States. According to their article, over the last few decades, marriage has been a declining institution among all Americans, and this decline is even more evident in the Black community. In 2019, only 30% of African Americans were married. This is compared to 48% of all Americans. Half or 50% of African Americans have never been married. This is compared to 34% of all Americans. After viewing the available data, we can see that although fewer Black women are now married, more Black women than Black men have been married at least once. This is because a higher percentage of Black women are divorced and widowed than men. Also in 2019, just under half, or 48% of Black women, had never been married, which is up from 44% in 2008 and 42.7% in 2005. Subscribe for more statistical data regarding the African American population. And be sure to share with those who you believe could benefit from a clear understanding of these facts. Again, these statistics have been provided by blackdemographics.com.
Now, Bink, those statistics right there are totally correct. That's exactly what we've been saying. So at least 50% in the Black community of our women have never even been married. And that's what we're addressing today, folks, is how do we change that? How do we make a difference on how that Black men and women should come together and get married? That's what we're discussing today. What are your thoughts on some things that can be done, Binky?
Well, I think something that goes along with that is, the decrease of marriage also goes with the decrease of people going to church.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
again, that's a society deal. It's just like Randy talked about the music. People are, I don't want to go to church. I don't want to get married. So now that's the trend. And now you've got to, I don't know if this is the right word to put. You got to entice these young kids again. And from what I heard, the trend of high schoolers having sex is going down. The percentage is going down today. So, I mean, again, that's a statistic that somebody put out there. It's just like peanuts are good for men's health and whatever. Take it with a grain of salt, but
right.
It's just, to me, it's everybody's a follower, not a leader, and we need to make leaders. And leading people to the right type of society, of having marriage and the benefits of being married and having one partner or two partners instead of 10 or 12, some responsibility. We do have to have jobs come back. Like when I was younger, you could go out and get a job. You had good insurance and benefits and vacations and stuff like that, And now I got out of a steel mill, and when I worked at that steel mill, my dad did, we had good benefits. We had good retirements. And now all that stuff's basically gone. So you're going into a factory now and you're working your butt off in a steel mill. And when you get out, you don't have that good of a benefit to give you after you've been there for 20 or 30 years, So there needs to be some enticements there to get people to do the right thing, go to work, be responsible, have a family, and change the way society is running today. That's just my look on things.
Randy?
I love Binky's point about the church. The church was a pinnacle point or a pinnacle part of shaping and cultivating our society. And reason why it fell off is because we brought on these pastors or these clergy. I would say across the spectrum there, the clergy class is garbage. Overall, I'll just say it like that. The clergy class is garbage, and the reason why they're garbage is because they're not talking about, they're not preaching about, they're not they're not getting into what it means to be a family or to raise a family and everything else. They're worrying about how to appease to those cult leaders that's in their communities, that's giving them money, that's lining their pockets. That's what they're worried about. You don't even find churches that's talking about the Bible or teaching from the Bible, but they twist the Bible to make it fit, saying that it's okay to be part of the LGBTQ culture. It's okay to slight the next man. It's okay to abandon this or do this. He's like, where did you get that in the Bible? And it's like, well, that's what Jesus said. Show me. Well, you got to translate it, and that's the problem with the Bible. They translated the Bible so much that they took it out of the original context of what the Bible was intended to say. So, getting back to the church. That's why I stay away from the church now, because I'm like, every time I step my foot into a church and I look around, I'm like, oh nope, never mind, I'm good, I'm out.
Martha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Martha. Okay, good. Folks, this is my sister Martha down in Florida.
Hello.
And I wanted her to get involved because how we was raised, it was totally different. Black men and women responsibility. The church, Randy, you said something about the church that was key because the church instituted marriage. It promoted marriage between a man and a woman. See, that was part of the attack that had to be used to get the black man and the black family to this position right now where we're at today. Was once you took the institution of marriage out of play, then any other partnership came to play. That's when you saw the man on man, the woman on woman. All of that was done by design. But the thing that I'm saying is, how do we try to get this back? Because I take a look at dating, right? The mindset of people that are dating now, they got women out here who feel like if a man take them on a date, they got to spend a certain amount of money. They got to pay for this. They got to pay for that. And I think that right there itself needs to be addressed, because two men and women who are watching this show, if you are not financially responsible for you and your household, if you are single, you do not need to be dating. How your broke ass gonna go somewhere with somebody and then make demands about what you want and what you want to do and what you ain't gonna do, and you're not paying for nothing? It should be, and I'm gonna get your comments on this. And dating, Martha, you first. If you are a woman, and I know the type of woman that you are, the old school, would you go out on a date and not have your own money to be able to take care of yourself if the man did not want to do that? Talk a little bit about that, Martha.
Well, number one, I ain't gonna go out with him. if I don't see no potential in the first place, because it ain't gonna take but a quick conversation. So if he ain't got that going on, I don't care how much money he got. He ain't got no money. He ain't got no date. So I can go and eat alone. I can eat alone. No, I don't believe in that. But when you getting to know somebody, back in the day, people didn't worry about no money or nothing like that. You went on a date or a walk or whatever, and you get to know somebody. Not you expecting to have a steak and potato and lobster and all this kind of stuff. But today, these young people think that category is the person. How he is. Oh, he ain't got no money. She ain't got no money. Well, if a lot back in the day, nobody had no money. And so you went out on a date, and a lot of time when you went on a date, you was being chaperoned in the first place.
But
it was an auntie. Yeah, that's right. It was an auntie or mama or dad or somebody walking behind y'all, watching what you're doing and saying. So, today, people just got so liberal, a lot of women don't even know that they kids are dating, don't even know who they dating, or what. And that's what's causing the problem right there. But, young women need to step up their game with a lot of things besides this, silicone in the front and the back and all that. You know, I mean that don't mean nothing, because when you get old, all that's going to be dropping on the ground. So, you know,
That's why I live you.
That's right. And you know, how can I judge how the man looking and I got all this stuff hanging myself. So and I don't know how the man can judge a woman if he ain't got himself in shape, big belly, but you know, bald head, and then you broke on top of that. So you know, it's a double-edged sword. You know, you got to look at the person on the inside and realize you connect in that way, not just appearance alone. Because you can have the raggediest car in the world, but if it's got a good engine in it, it's going to run. It's going to outrun the car.
Well, you know, and that's some of the things I think, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this. Now, when I was coming up and I asked a young lady to go out on a date, the first thing I had to do was ask her father if I could take her out on a date, you know, and I did that. Then we went out on a date. He had a couple of things for me to do. He said, man, if you're going to have my daughter out, take care of her, protect her, and bring her back home at a certain time. Once he was comfortable with knowing that you were a responsible young man, then he still was waiting for you to be there at 10 o'clock. But at the same time, he knew then that you were going to be a young man that he could trust to go out with his daughter and bring her back home safely. I think that that type of ruling and structure is gone because, like you said, Randy, by the church not being prevalent and promoting marriage between a man and a woman, and young men today don't have a spiritual foundation. The thug life image is what caused a lot of situations with relationships because, you know, black men was calling black women bitches and hoes and all the rest of that stuff. And women was calling each other that same situation, you know. So now here we are in 2025, and the marriage rate for black men and women is almost out at the bottom. It really is. So what are some of the things that you think, Randy, that men and women should do in order to start dating and getting to know each other? What are some of your thoughts on that?
It boils down to respect. So first off, when so I'm on my third marriage, for everybody knows.
Okay.
And you know, and just being still in the newlywed phase, although my wife and I, we've been together previously decades ago, but we finally came back together and we got married. But I still asked her father. Do I have your permission to marry your daughter, sir? And he looked at me. It was kind of like a funny moment because it's like, I don't like y'all damn 40s. So what the hell I care, you know? But it was still a matter of respect. Of, do I have permission to marry your daughter? Do you respect me enough or trust me enough to entrust your child's life into my hands? And that was the premise of it. And we talked and everything else, and it was all good. And that's what it boils down to, is that men and women. Because my wife, she met with my family as well. My siblings, my mom, my dad, and they was like, "You're not gonna be like the other ones, are you? You know, we don't have to put hands on you, you know, stuff." So it was a very candid, open discussion, and that's what we need to get back to is, you know, no matter how old you get, you should still have respect enough to be involved in your significant other's family, and make sure you have their approval, their lookout, their support. And everything else, and from there it will grow. And you know, my wife could call into my brothers and sisters without me being around, or she could call on my daughters and say, "Hey, you know, your dad is doing this. He's busy right now with this, that, and third." That needs to, you know, we need to bring that back to society. Is having just that mutual respect for each other, and everything else will be just fine.
Your thoughts, Mr. Binky?
Well, it's like your sister said. You know, standards weren't this high back decades ago, you know.
Right.
And she brought up something that just hit me. My first date in my car, this gal went out with me, and it didn't have to do with property or anything. It had to do with me. That car I had was a 50 Chevy. It was the ugliest Oh, and she sat next to me in it. So, like your sister said, back then you didn't have this high standard. You went out for that person, you know.
Right.
And I think that's got a lot to do with today, because everybody expects the highest standard for everything. And if you don't meet
Right.
that standard, you know, and it's both ways. I mean, men and women, they're up here, and there's no middle ground. There's no give me the chance to prove who I am.
Right.
It's like what I've got, you know. That's what I see it sometimes.
I want to dovetail on that real quick. And Steve, you're absolutely right, because you have, if you both are living on a high hog up here and you have all these high standards and everything else, when you look at the wedding vows, for better or for worse, for sickness and health, you know, for rich or for poor, if I lose my job, babe, you got me for the next 3 months until I get back on my feet. And she's like, nah, you're a bum, get out. You know, it's like, you know, if, hey, honey, I lost my job today. Can you take care of me? No, I ain't married you to take care of you. You supposed to be taking care of yourself. You know, that's where the relationships are at these days. Even in marriage, they don't want to take care of each other, and at times when the other person falls off a little bit, and that's the other problem we have. You know, I live here in Austin, Texas. You know, a lot of high-end restaurants and everything else. And to y'all's point, you know, a woman, you know, you ask them to go out on a date, they think they're going to Ruth Chris, and they getting picked up in a limo or a Waymo, and it's like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to Red Lobster or Chuck E. Cheese, and we're gonna have some fun and talk. You know, we're not doing Ruth Chris. That's a $700 plate. We're not doing that today. You know, what are you bringing to the table to deserve that?
Well, you know what? You know what, man, and to it, I want to get your thoughts on this, Martha. Okay, so you're a woman that's on welfare, and you meet a man that's working, got a good job. How is it that you bring nothing to the table? Other people, kids, no job really. You doing the EBT thing. You don't went scraped up some money to get you a big fat ass from Brazil, you know. And you know, you done did wasted money on all of these things, and now you got a man that could be interested in you. Now you got to tell him, well, you know what, if you want to date me, you need this, you got to have this kind of job. I need 6 figures. I need this and this and that. When you don't bring nothing to the table with a bunch of kids, I want to know, what is your thought about a woman of that caliber? Because I know you're a successful woman. You've been married before. You know the old school rules. What are your thoughts on a woman like that? And what does she do to a good man that could possibly be a good husband to somebody else?
Number one, you know, I think that a lot of the women today, they done lost respect for themselves, and they look at all this TV stuff, the Housewives of Atlanta and all this other stuff, and they think that that's real life. That ain't real life, because a lot of those women are business women or successful women, and they met a successful man, so they bringing something to the table. But when you down like that, then you should just be bringing yourself humble and explaining, hey, this is what I have to bring to the table. I can cook, I can clean, I can keep a home, I can manage, you know, money if you bring in, to make sure that when you do come home, it's clean, you got food and this and that. And if she do have some type of education or want to further her education, then she could discuss that with him as well. But you got to be trying to do something and expect, you know, and not expect for somebody to do everything for you. But so no, women that does that, I think that they living in a dream world, because that's not realistic.
So Martha, I have a question for you. So what you're saying is, ma'am, is that women of that caliber need to be selling themselves to the man as if they are marketing, you know, a product, and convincing that man why he should buy in to being with that woman. Is that what you
not really something like that, but okay, say for instance, if I was like that and I had kid and then I met a man that had a lot going on for him, I would present myself, number one, with respect as a woman. And then I would bring to the table and let him know, this is what I have. This is what I'm trying to do. Yes, I'm a single parent. I'm raising my children the best way I can. This is the income that I have. But if you decide to combine what you have with me, I'm going to do the best that I can do to, to step up my game. If you bring money in, I'm not going to go get no BBL or go shopping. I'm going to make sure that the home is proper, that you have a good meal, a clean place to sleep. And I'm going to make sure that the kids respect him as well, because that's another thing. Even if I was a man and looking at a woman like that, I'm going to look at how she raising her kids for as respect. If I'm coming in and I'm going to be the breadwinner of the house, so I need to have that reassurance that we blend in this situation together, merging together, but it's got to run smooth. It can't be no one-way street.
Exactly.
It ain't no one-way street.
Guys, I'm gonna play this.
But like I said.
Check it out.
Yes, ma'am.
This man said, why every time I meet a woman, she's behind on her bills or she needs help with a bill? If that's something that you're questioning and it's bothering you, upsetting you, that you have to bring it to the internet, you don't need to be meeting women right now. You need to be focusing on yourself and getting your life together so that doesn't bother you. Ew.
It sounds like you and the rest of those type of women are the ones that need to be working on themselves. He's speaking facts. Don't nobody owe you nothing. No rent, no lights, no Wi-Fi. If you grown enough to date, you grown enough to handle your own responsibilities. And stop calling it help when it's really dependence. Handle your business first before you go looking for somebody to fund it.
Right.
Your thoughts, Martha, on that?
Huh?
Your thoughts on that? What she said? She's telling. Well, she's basically saying to a man, if you're gonna date me, you got to have all of these things in place to date me, but I don't have them in place myself, because this is how I am. If I'm going to be with a woman, she got to bring something to the table besides cookies. And see, and I think our society has created this mess because some women, I'm not saying all, feel like a man is supposed to take care of them. In the old days, men took care of took care of the family and took care of a housewife, but the housewife produced, just like you said. She took care. That was her responsibility, to take care of the house, the kids, to cook, clean up, make sure you take the money and pay the bills with it. If he's going working all week, bringing the money home, you're the person that keeps the house in order. You know what I'm saying? You do all of this because when we grew up, we saw my mom and dad. They would come in on Friday. They would sit down. They would put their paychecks on the table as a unit and then talk about what they wanted to do, money they was going to save, if they was going to make this, repairs, all this and that. But they always saved money. They looked out, made sure the family and all the bills were paid, everything. The kids had whatever that they needed, and they had a savings. That's the way a relationship that I saw worked. Not today, where women are telling me, well, you know, if you want to take me out, I need you to pay for my nails to get done. And
no.
And see, for me,
if you're a real woman, the way they did back in the day, you supposed to already have your game together. Number one, from the time your feet hit the floor, your personal hygiene is done, your hair is done, and I'm not going nowhere today, but hey, I'm clean and I'm ready for the camera. You know what I mean? So if somebody see me going to the grocery store I'm not going out there in the grocery store with no rollers in my head, a bonnet, and my clothes that I slept in last night. I think that that's really nasty and it's not appropriate. You know, you see these girls and some guys out there in the store shopping like they just got out of bed. They smelling when they walk past you, you can faint. You know, you know, and all you see is booty today. And I'm so sick of looking at booty. And I'm a woman. I don't even want to look at my own booty like that. But that's all you see. You see booty, you don't see no face because the head is tore up to the floor up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then they're expecting for a man to look at you in a certain type of way because of the booty. No, I don't think so, honey. You better go back and look in the mirror. Go back to old school.
Your thoughts about, and then I'm gonna pass it off to Mickey. Your thoughts about what she was saying about the man. That man got to do this. If he ain't got all this stuff in place, then you don't need to be dating. But what about the woman? Your thoughts on that?
For me, it's like this. I expect if the woman and I are in the same age group, same demographics of like education and all that, I expect her to have her stuff together. I expect her to be motivated enough to have done some things in her life. And so I gauge that. If she's single, she's been in a previous, like I said earlier, we talked about earlier about, being in previous relationships and having body counts and all that. That happens. I get it, especially as you get older in life, that tends to be the case, so it is what it is. But if she's 45 years old, and she got, say, 2-3 kids, or they're, 2 or 3 children that are older or whatever, and she still doesn't have a job. She's still trying to be on welfare, and she ain't trying to get a job. I'm going to keep it moving, because what are you bringing to the table what are you bringing to the table for me? Nothing. Exactly. I don't care about a clean house, because I can hire a maid to do that.
Yes.
I can clean my own house. I could cook. So like, what do you actually, besides bringing the booty, what are you bringing to the table? Are you going to cause that stress because you got extra baby daddies out there and these kids are not disciplined? Mm-hmm. I don't need that in my life at this age, but in my 20s, cool. We can get it in, but now I'm in my mid 40s, turning 50. I ain't got time for that. So it's like, what do you bring to, if you're not bringing that to the table, you are low value. In my book.
Yes,
I respect you. We can be cool. We can be friends. We can go kick it sometime. But as far as relationship, can't do it. Nope, won't do it. Mr. B, can't do it. Nah.
Well, we're sitting here. We've been discussing old school, new school. We've been discussing society and standards and stuff. Real quick, I want to sum it up using commercials of what we've turned into. Back in the 60s and the 70s, you had Don't Squeeze the Charmin with Mr. Whipple, the store owner. You had Where's the Beef?
Right.
The little old lady looking at the hamburger going, where's the beef? Now today you've got LeBron James and you've got Taylor Swift. You got them selling what society's supposed to be like. Because of them, you're supposed to buy this. Back in the old school stuff, it was everyday people. The little old lady, the grocery manager, whatever. I know it probably sounds goofy, but what we're seeing today is this standard or no standard. Back in the old school, it was we're all on the same level. So we're all here. I mean, like I said, if a girl wanted to date me and got in my 50 Chevy, which is the ugliest thing in the world, that would not happen today. I would
no.
And I think too, because how society has made men and women think about each other, that's a big factor too. And if you haven't been grounded of seeing a real structured relationship, then you tend to think the selfishness. Because I hear this sometimes when we was coming through, like in the late 80s and 90s, and women was burning the bra and the panties and all like that. They was running around talking about, I don't need no man. I don't need no man for this. I can raise my children. I can raise a son to be a man. All of that turned into what we've seen today, were a lot of women who raised boys and they turned into sissies. Your thought on that, Martha?
Well, I raised a boy and a girl, but the bottom line of it is when they get a certain age, and we can do the best we can do for us raising them. When they get a certain age and they get out in the world and they be influenced by different things, that's a choice they're gonna have to make. Don't mean that I like it, but that's a choice that they have to live with. Because when I die, I'm gonna die by myself. And when they die, they're gonna die by themselves. And all you can do when you don't raise your child is to pray for them and hope that they open their eyes and get it together. But like I said, it's sad that a lot of parents, even parents my age, they act like they scared to tell the children when they're wrong. Because they're too busy trying to be their friend.
Yep.
You got to be the mother or the father first. And then, I'm your friend, but when I'm in the parent mode. And I used to tell mine, hey, it said woman, today I'm the man because I'm finna whoop that butt. Tomorrow I'm the woman because I'm cooking and cleaning and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm loving you. But don't get it twisted because either one of them can come out on you at any time. They say open up that can or whoop butt. That is. But today ain't nobody chastising their kids. Yes. And when they get out in the world is killing them. Well, because what you put up with your kid, nobody else gonna put up with it.
Exactly.
Yep. My philosophy is this, and a lot of women say, even with my nephew Anthony, your son, he had positive male role models. He knew with my father and me that he was going to become a man amongst men because of the structure that we had and what we taught him. And so when I hear a lot of women say, I don't need a man and that I can raise my son to be a man, that's not true because somebody somewhere that she knows he is going to have to glean from on what the responsibilities of a man are. Your thoughts, Randy?
Right.
You're absolutely right. Women can raise children, yes, but for a woman to teach a man how to be a man or a boy to be a man, it's no, you can't, because unless you were brought up by your father and he instilled all the things that a man should do into you as a woman, and you carry and you pass that tradition on, type of thing, that may be something a little different. But we don't have those dynamics in this world, and so a man is going to go out there and say, "Hey, son, come with me, I'm going to show you how to fish," because you feed a person for a day, then you fed them for the day. But if you teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. So there's those little nuggets that men pass on to other men, and there's nuggets that men pass on to their daughters, but not so much in an ingratiated way. They may say, "All right, us guys, we don't like that. You might want to go change, type of thing," and we leave it alone. Mom, handle that, fix that. It goes inside her head. Just looking like that. That's something different. But for a woman to say that they can raise a man or raise a boy to be a man, is no. This is why we have cross dressers now. This is why we have confused boys these days. This is why, because they're instilling their persona into that boy, and so that's why that's how I look at things. Is for women that,
and I'm so sick of looking at men looking like women and women looking like men. It's just sickening. You go out and you like, okay, they pass you by. Is that a man or a woman? You like,
Yeah.
And then you got men out there looking better than some of the women, and I'm like, oh my God.
I would say to the single moms out there who have boys, not to say that you need to be around the men and doing this, but get that child around men, whether that be at the YMCA,
a good man,
library. Get them around influential men and ask them to mentor your son, and type of thing, to be a man.
Right.
That's what you got to do. And that's how I grew up.
Right.
Mr. Bucci?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they've been saying, you know, we don't have a man and a woman's role no more. They, you know, our schools, our churches, our government, they're all telling these kids a man can be a woman can be a man, two women can raise a child, two women can have a child. You know, it's the confusion that keeps going on here. And as Randy said, we've got to start getting back to normalcy, reality, and start teaching these kids there is a difference. You don't have to hate people. You don't have to degrade people, but there is that difference. They can be whatever they want. That's fine, you know, but there's a difference. And that's, and as Randy and your sister said, there's a role for a parent, a mother and a father. A mother can't teach a boy to be a man, and a man can't teach a woman, a girl to be a woman.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, a mother's job is damn important because they've got to be stern, but they've got to be loving. They've got to show hate, but they have to show responsibility. The dad has more of the responsibility role. And as my mom said, when I got in trouble, just wait till your dad gets home.
And that's a frightening thing right there. Automatic. That's a Lord.
We got to get back to that. That's
and mom always overemphasized what really happened too, just to make it worse for you. You know? She always over exaggerated what happened. Like, and,
you know,
and he said this, and he pushed me. And you're like, Mom, I
didn't you finished.
He's like, you did what? And you're like, I didn't do that, Dad. Yeah. It's like, and you look at your mom like, why'd you lie on me like that? And she's like, that's what you get. You should be acting up. It's like, oh, you little.
Well, I think that the roles of men and women have been diminished in our society today. Men do not understand their responsibilities to the family structure because they haven't been taught to be in a family situation. That's why the broken homes with the single moms trying to raise men, it was all by design, especially in the Black community. And now we see what we got because most of the men in the Black community, either they was locked up or they had a father who wasn't there, or if they did have a father, he wasn't there psychologically. A lot of the men are broken and they don't understand their responsibilities to be men and to stand up in the community like men used to, and to protect the women like they should. And it's not happening today. And so it's our responsibilities, the remnants of the real man that's left, is to try to pull our communities back together and try to cuff our young men, because just like the fact of the matter, you couldn't call me no YN. You couldn't call me. I see it in the community. People say all the YNs. You couldn't call me that. You would have to call me by my first name or my last name with some respect. Because if you call me YN, it could be a problem for you and the dentist, okay? That type of respect about being a man. I'm a man. You just can't say what you want to say to me. You have to respect who I am, because I'm going to respect you, and I'm going to command that back as a man because I'm going to treat you that way. But see, the type of values that men was raised by, and this is what I'm saying to the young brothers, just because you hustle and you make money, just because you got a college degree and you got cars and all these things, if you don't have structure on what the responsibilities are for a man and a family structure, and I say this to women all the time and they get upset. I say, sister, you got to know your place. And when you say that, the first thing a woman, you ain't telling me what to do. you know, that's not it. And that's what society have sister thinking. Damn, he told me, do I know my place? Like I'm supposed to be his flunky and all that stupid stuff. When a man shows his being a man and saying we're going to set up things this way, women today tend to think, you ain't controlling me. So it's all sorts of things that society has created that has got into the community and caused this dissension between man and woman. It's almost like a competition thing. It's either I got something and you ain't got nothing, or the woman got something and the man ain't got nothing. I just feel that if you're going to be with a relationship, if you're going to marry somebody, you need to bring independence and the things that you have created, or an idea on how they can move forward together as a team, opposed to you running around dating with your pants hanging down. And my mother had a name for a guy that didn't bring nothing to the table. She called him a swinging penis. That's all he brought to the table. You know, but that wasn't the word she used. But it's the responsibility, if you're going to be out here and if you're going to want to be in somebody's life, that you have to be responsible. You have to be working. You have to have a vehicle. You got to have your own place. That don't mean you stand at home in your mama's basement still, you know, playing video games. The structure of being a real man, and I say a real man is one who accepts the responsibilities of a wife, of children, and be a good person to help shape the community. Your last words. We'll get out of here, Randy.
I would say, you know, growing up, we used to tease before sagging pants became popular. We used to say, because that originated out of the prison system.
Out of the prison system.
And that meant that you were available.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
We'll look at guys when they sagging their pants. They're like, oh, you swing that way? And they're like, what are you talking about? It's like, you get your ass out. You must want something. So, hey, folks, hey, truly appreciate the show today. Appreciate this panel. It's great to meet you, Miss Martha. Look forward to having you participate more often with us. And folks, I will catch you all soon. You can follow my show, Permanent Associates, on this network here, on all other platforms at RPerm, and I will catch y'all.
You can on the network, so tell them where you're at. You're at LetTheTruthBeTold.Lightcast.com. That is our radio TV platform, folks.
And download the app.
Yes, LetTheTruthBeTold.Lightcast.com. Randy, thank you for showing up on the show. But I want to say this before you leave, and I want everybody to think about this. I was watching the show the other day on the internet, and it was a dating show called Pop the Balloon. And I'm going to show you the mindset of a woman. In the Bible, in Proverbs, it talks about a virtuous woman. A woman that God desires. When a man leaves his mama and daddy, he cleaves to the woman, they become one. And it's a virtual woman who will be a good wife to any man that wants one. The guy on the balloon that popped the balloon show, he said this. I want you to think about this. He said to the women that was remaining on the panel with the balloon, he said, if I gave you $1 million, what would you do with it? And I listened to all the carnal mind women say, hey, you know, I would make a movie, I would go shopping, I would do this, I would buy this, I would buy that. And he popped all the women's balloon except one. And this is what the woman said. She said, if you gave me $1 million, I would take that and I would multiply it and double it and make it 3 to 4 million.
All right.
That's the kind of woman that I'm looking for. Because this woman, if she can take what you bring into the house and double it, that's what we need. That's what we got to get back to. Thanks, Randy. Your last words, Mr. Binky.
Well, I see where all the looks came at in your family. Dr. Nichols, she looked like she was 20 years old. She changed her hair. I'm like, so as we've been talking today, I think if any of us want to build in the future, if anybody wants to build a structure, you got to start with a strong foundation. And
yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not a firm believer that progress is always a good thing. And I think discussions like this to bring up other sources of consideration to bring into your life is a good thing for people. And
Yeah.
I think we need to have more talks like this.
Martha, your last question before we get out of here.
Well, I appreciate you guys for having me on the show for the first time, and hopefully that's something that we all said here, and whoever watching out there, take heed, love one another and try to respect yourself as well as respect others.
Blessings to you guys, and I'll be talking to you soon. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll do this again next week. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the show. We're trying to do something different here at Let the Truth Be Told. Every Friday, we're going to take a topic regarding relationships. I think the structure between the black man and black woman has broken down. The line of communications is the key in any relationship. And if you're going to get with somebody, it's not about the money. It's not about the material things, because you're only a renter for those things. It's about this. And these are my last words. If the black community is to thrive again, if relationships in the black community is to grow again, to create families, we have to get past this thought. We have to get past the thought of thinking that you are so special that you don't need anything to bring to the relationship but yourself. That's for men and women. But men and women in the black community need to understand their structure. That when you get into a relationship or a marriage, it's death do you part. My mother and father was married over 70 years, and I seen them go through all sorts of things. Infidelity, argues, fights, but the one thing that they always maintained was to stay married. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has faults. But they were big enough to communicate with each other and be able to work it out and continue to raise their kids and keep a household together. Everybody want to talk about how much love. Love is no good when you're broke, because you can't go to the store and sell no love and say, I'm in love, give me free items. Love is nothing without an understanding. And an understanding is nothing without communication. And so if men and women in the black community need to sit down and communicate honestly, put things on the table on who you are and what you do and what you bring to the table. And if you're going to be together, join in marriage, blend your family, put God first, and we'll see the rise in the black communities across the country. God bless you. Have a great weekend, and let us make this country great again. Have a great week.